So I'll be honest, this is a movie that I watched purely because I haven't reviewed anything for like a week and there's not really a lot out at the moment to go and see and review. We're in that quiet time. And it's a film that I expected to watch, hate, rant about, and just talk about how terrible it was. I actually ended up enjoying it. And I sang along to certain bits and I tapped my feet and I got invested and I don't know what's happening.
Put the button back in the box.
Starring amongst others, Rebel Wilson, Adam Devine, Liam Hemsworth and Priyanka Chopra. Directed by Todd Strauss-Schulson off of a screenplay by three people, wrote this one. Erin Cardillo, Dana Fox and Katie Silberman. This is my review for Isn't It Romantic? And yes it is. So Isn't It Romantic is the story of Rebel Wilson's character, Natalie, who at a very young age loved rom-coms. Her mother, played by Jennifer Saunders, and a great cameo from her, drums that out of her. She tells her that they're useless, they're terrible, they're poor representations, and the kind of happy endings that they get in love stories, such as Pretty Woman, are not going to happen to people like them. She takes that on board and that's how she lives her life. She hates the whole concept of romantic comedies from that point onwards, until she finds herself getting mugged, gets knocked out, and then wakes up to find that she is in fact now living in a parallel universe, an idealistic version of the life that she had before, and one that's playing out beats very familiar to romantic comedies. So the plot of this one, it reminded me in a lot of ways of Amy Schumer's movie from last year, I Feel Pretty, the only difference being that this one isn't shit. That movie I hated. It was terrible. Awful. It made my worst list, and it's kind of what I expected from this one, just a cheap knockoff of a movie that I thought was terrible. Didn't bode well, but what this one does is it doesn't feel as horrible as that film did. I Feel Pretty, I just had a lot of issues with the message that it was trying to convey. This one, it doesn't do it brilliantly, like it's not the best delivered message in the world, but its heart's in the right place, and that's not something that I could say for I Feel Pretty, but there are a lot of similarities. The lead actress gets knocked out, wakes up, and everything's different. In that film, everybody viewed her as pretty, and in this one, it kind of does the same sort of thing in a way, but the whole thing is much more embracing the tropes of a typical rom-com movie. And there's a lot of fun to be had in that, and Rebel Wilson, I think, is the perfect person to cast in this role because she's just so believable and convincing in the absurdity of the situation. I love Rebel Wilson. She always makes me laugh. I think she's a very, very underrated actress, and I hope she gets a lot more lead roles because, based on this one, she did a really, really fine job with it. I really just enjoyed the character of Natalie. There was nothing about her really that I didn't like. She wasn't nasty, she wasn't mean-spirited, she was just a person down on the luck who didn't love herself. And that's really the message of this one. It's not about finding the one. It's not about a woman finding a man and then living happily ever after, although that does play into that, but it places its messaging a lot more on just a woman or just a person really, just learning to love who they are. And I really, really appreciated that one. And it's a movie that's pretty well cast, I think, across the board. I mean, the main roles here are all done well. Liam Hemsworth, always great fun. He starts the movie in a bit of a dickish role, and when we wake up in the rom-com world, he's different, but yet also kind of the same. They do interesting things with his character, and with all of them really. Adam Devine is a great love interest for Rebel Wilson here. I love him as an actor. He's great here, he nails it. Priyanka Chopra is great as well. It just feels like all of the cast knew the sort of movie that they'd signed up to make. They got the tone, they got the spirit behind it, and they all got on board with it. And that's why I think it's enjoyable as it is. It's a very short movie as well. It's about an hour and a half, I think, maybe slightly longer. And it kind of gets in, tells a story, and then gets out again. And I appreciate that. It doesn't hang around. It doesn't try to do more with the concept than it needs to do. It knows exactly the sort of story it needs to tell. It knows its time frame, and it just gets in and gets it done. So I liked that. This felt like a very breezy runtime. It didn't ever drag. It didn't ever feel like it went into a lull at all. It just consistently at least entertaining throughout. That being said, it does have a few problems. I think the middle of the movie, it's kind of at the point where it settles in to this rom-com world that it feels like it stops lampooning it. It feels like it stops heightening the whole rom-com aspect, and there's many times actually in this middle part of the movie where it just feels like I'm watching a traditional rom-com. And that's fine, because I enjoy them from time to time, and there are enjoyable aspects even when this movie does kind of have its brief little lag. But thankfully, because the runtime's so short, it doesn't hang around in that spot for long. It's something that it didn't bother me too much. It was just something that was noticeable. It stopped making fun of it and just started being one. Not for long, but just for a spell there around the centre of the film. The beginning's very strong. I think the ending's pretty strong as well. There's a bit towards the end where we end on a musical number, and it feels a little bit odd considering what happens in the story as we get to the end. But I'm kind of guessing like by that point of the film we're not supposed to be taking it seriously anymore. We're just supposed to be having fun, and I did. I had fun with it. I mean, I didn't know I needed to see Liam Hemsworth play saxophone, but turns out I did. But it did just feel a little bit jarring. It felt like a bit of an odd way to end this film, because it wraps up in a certain way, it gets us to a certain place, and then sort of feels like it backtracks a little without any explanation. As I say, maybe we're just supposed to not really think about it and have fun, and I did. I had fun, and that sums up most of what I think about this film, to be honest, is fun. And fun is kind of all I can ask for in a movie like this. It doesn't need to be groundbreaking, it doesn't need to do anything overly new. I mean, the entire premise isn't exactly original to this. It does feel original, the way it's done, like it feels like it's having its own take on it, but it's not an original concept. But it just needs to be fun, it just needs to be light, breezy, and a good time, and it ticked those boxes for me, and I really wasn't expecting it to. I was expecting to come down hard on this film. I was expecting to hate it and just swear a lot. Turns out, yeah, had a really fun time with it. Way more fun than I was expecting to. I'm going to give Isn't It Romantic a 7 out of 10. So yeah, just a nice film. Just an enjoyable way to spend an hour and 40 minutes. There's not been a huge amount, as I said, out lately, so that's why there haven't been that many reviews coming along, but we're getting to that time of the year now where there's going to be quite a lot more. Captain Marvel is next week now. Really close to the MCU starting back up again. And with that comes a ton of other films as well, so look out for many, many more reviews coming soon. Do hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of them. You can follow me on Twitter too, @JoeJulians. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.